What's going on? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to talk to you about Lucid. Give you a quick overview of the data points, what's moving it, and go over everything else you need to know. But first, make sure to hit that thumbs up. And with that, let's get right to it. So Lucid is down 4.61%, 207 the low, 218 the high. So definitely getting dragged down by the broader market. Faring a little bit better than Tesla, mind you. So Tesla's down 6.1%. Rivian is down 3.6%. So you can kind of see that right up here. It might be a little bit small, but obviously just the broader market's absolute crazy today. So you had a lot of fear initially coming out associated to the 𝗖𝗓𝗡𝗡𝗘𝗖𝗧 news, and then you had negative data on a macro standpoint coming out, which the market kind of liked. So you had the challenger job cuts, the exports imports not necessarily the best. So you had as a byproduct just the likelihood of, even for the next Fed meeting for the April one, for there to be a cut for then. So ultimately that's good, right? The market loved it and was buying it up. So it was starting to really push higher, but then you also did start to have a lot of inconsistent information. So we're now getting more just back and forth for the tariffs. So this whole week can just be defined as tariffs. So there's a hell of a lot of just grayness for that, and the market doesn't like gray. So you have that, some escalation coming from Russia as well as France. So there seems to be a lot of craziness going on there. So a lot of just worrying about what is coming next. Is there World War III? Are we going to have just substantial tariffs? Are we going to have a massive recession? Like, there's a lot of just polar spectrums of all this. So as a byproduct, Lucid is going down, despite them actually making some pretty good progress recently. A couple of things to bring up. So Germany, there's been good good kind of traction in that aspect, but at the same time, as what was mentioned in Q4, the marketing does suck a lot out in Germany. So I've seen some back and forth on social media about that. The only other thing that I wanted to bring up that's been kind of shown is this right here. So it looks like Lucid is going to be participating in the NVIDIA GTC 2025, and I believe the last time they actually participated in this was September of 2022. And it's kind of funny, I actually just posted that recently because they talked on, at the time, Michael Bell, about the whole hands-free driving, and so that's going to be probably what they actually talk about this time around. Be very interesting to see who they have as the speaker, and I really do hope, on a side note, this is actually going to be live streamed and all that. But yeah, that's, in my opinion, pretty good stuff. Aside from that, Lucid's been relatively quiet. So in case you guys haven't heard me before, I really recommend a lot of people popping over to Twitter or X and giving Lucid 𝗖𝗧𝗛𝗧 a follow. He gives better, credible information than even Lucid itself. So a lot of good stuff coming from there. So I always just see him as pretty much Lucid for the most part. But aside from that, though, no actual SEC filings, nothing along those lines. So it is just at the broader mercy of the broader market right now. Moving over to shorts, they are returning 927,000 shares. So that, in my opinion, does show that it's somewhat of a unjustified pullback. Of course, I could be wrong, but again, that's something to kind of keep in mind. 24.97% of the free float is being shorted. Works out to be 302.7 million shares overall are being shorted. So definitely shorts have doubled down a lot over the last several weeks. So I think they're just taking advantage of the bloodbath today and returning. Through IBKR, though, it does indicate roughly around right over here, 4.2 million shares available to be shorted. So you are seeing back and forth. So for a brief minute, it was in excess of 10 million, which is the norm, but it's for the first time in almost 6 months, it has broken off of that in excess of 10 million mark. So it goes to show that a lot of short activity. Even looking at this teal line right here, shorts at one time were increasing roughly around 2 million shares, and then they just abruptly returned. So even they are fairly active, maybe mitigating some risk across the board. But looking at this, so today you have 219,000 in calls, 638,000 in puts. A lot of big transactions. So between 9 and 9:05, you had 419,000 and then 21,000 between there. So big money is definitely paying attention to Lucid, but not always in the most optimistic, because 62% of all the options being done today are bearish in nature. And of the call options that are being purchased, you see a consensus for it to be kind of around that 250 range. So optimism has definitely gone downhill with Lucid, and then the bears are anticipating for it to be sub 2, and that seems to be the consensus for the foreseeable future. So it's unfortunate. I know I've kind of expressed this in the past, but Lucid did have a relatively good earnings, and they should not be around these prices at all. But what do I know? Aside from that, though, these are all the transactions occurring on the secondary market above $100,000. So it kind of fits on one page, not all that much. It's still better than the norm, but as you can kind of see, everything that does show as a bid is a sell. So there's a lot of selling going on, a lot of fear, a lot of inconsistency, and the market hates that. But with that 208, it is trading between this pivot and this S1. So 263 is going to be the next strong target / resistance. Unfortunately, I don't see that being touched anytime soon. There's just way too much uncertainty in the market. There needs to be a lot of clarity associated to tariffs, a lot of de-escalation coming from a macro standpoint, and you also need a lot of information coming from Lucid. You have to at the same time hold them accountable, because they're not giving it blows my mind that you have companies that are pretty much flopping on their earnings. The CEOs are coming out doing an interview the next day. So again, you kind of have to hold Lucid accountable for their inaction. And yes, I know that's not a real word. I like to make up words on occasion, but with it right now as well, so 206 is going to be that next strong support, and it hasn't been touched today. So 207 is the low. So at least in the next couple trading days, just watch for that to be a key pivot. So let me know your general thoughts on Lucid. What do you think about the numbers that have been coming out from Germany, and what is your kind of 2 cents on them participating in this? Do you think this is going to kind of inspire a rush of buying? Because most likely they'll be talking about autonomous levels and technology, which is kind of stupid if you think about it. So Peter stepped down or whatever happened, and I feel like this is a perfect opportunity for him to speak. He can actually have an audience that wants to hear about technology, and this is something that he loved to rant about. He can talk probably for hours about that. So it's kind of unfortunate he stepped down, just the timing wise, unless, you never know, Lucid still could potentially send him there. But I've already seen some pretty big events that were taking place in Saudi, some signing agreements, and he wasn't there. So it shows that, yeah, he has definitely stepped down fully and is just more of a consultant at this stage in the game. But let me know your thoughts on Lucid. Give yourself a shout out. Are you buying the dip? Are you selling? What are you doing with Lucid? But one final thing, pop over to my Discord. A lot of good people in the chat talking about options, stocks, crypto, everything that floats people's boats. So definitely worthwhile to go over there. It is completely free, and free is amazing. So with all that said, appreciate all of you watching.